coming up very soon if you're tuning in for the women's 400 metres hurdles. Lots of action on track and in the field still to come.
Cassandra Tate, a bronze medalist back in Beijing at the World Champs in 2015, 34 years of age, still going strong. Gianni Woodruff, Olympic finalist in Tokyo, South American champion this year. She only needs to find 0.02 of a second to add to her season's best to get that World Championship qualifying mark. Louise Maravel, European silver medalist last year. Olympic finalist in Paris, very, very good runner. Lena Nielsen carried the kit for some of the world's greatest in the Olympic Games in 2012 and is now a world and Olympic bronze medalist in the relay. Zapletalova, European under-23 champion a couple of years ago. Good win in Brussels. Elena Kaleti of Germany, 4 wins so far this year, although this is a big step up. She had a 54.93. Very quickly out, Rogel Joseph, African champion last year, the South African. And now listen to the reception for the Dutch Golden Girl. Double Olympic bronze medalist, a silver in Eugene, and it was all gold in Budapest. Femke Bol, the outstanding star of the Dutch athletics team at the moment. Just the one outing so far this year in Rabat with a very handy 52.46. But of course, her great rival is Sydney McLaughlin. And McLaughlin has been in fabulous form this year with a 49.69 flat 400, a 12.7. But on the outside, Cassandra Tate, real talent. Gianni Woodruff, Olympic finalist from Tokyo, South American champion. Louise Maravel, an Olympic finalist from Paris. She was 5th in Rome. Then to Bol. How close could she get to that season's best from Sydney McLaughlin? Nielsen on her inside in 4. Good athletes to chase. Zapletalova of Slovakia in 3. Kaleti of Germany, 2nd from the inside, looks fairly relaxed. And Joseph of South Africa on the inside. So, Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone has the season's best, the world lead at the Grand Slam in Miramar with 52.07. This is Bol's chance to lay down another marker on the long road to Tokyo. She was bitterly disappointed with her 3rd place finish in Paris last year. She had been unbeaten for such a long time. Home crowd, bank holiday, it's packed, and they will roar her every step of the way. Bol in 5 in the women's 400 hurdles. A huge roar from the crowd as Bol gets into her running, and she's already eating up the stagger on Maravel, who was an Olympic finalist alongside her in Paris last year. Maravel just on the left of picture and nearly falls there. Good running from Bol. Tate looking smooth on the outside as Bol now comes up onto the shoulder of Woodruff, eating up the stagger round that bend. A long lean for that barrier. Watch for the clock. 52.07 is her great rival's world lead. Also, there's a subplot here because 3 or 4 others are within a whisker of the automatic qualifying time for the World Champs, which is 54.65. But this is all about Femke Bol. She's desperate to close the gap on Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. Watch the clock. It's a good time. Is it a great time? It's a meeting record. 52.52. It's not quite as quick as she ran in Rabat, but it's perhaps not quite as warm. They won't remember the time. They'll just remember the day they came to watch a national hero deliver another masterclass of hurdling. The rest were left trailing in the wake of a woman who has reached new heights over the last couple of years. The time rounded down by 100, 52.51. Smashing her own meeting record from 3 years ago. There's still a bit to do to close the gap on Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, but you can only beat who's in front of you on the day, and that will be another confidence builder for the Dutch Golden Girl.
And two really consistent performances. You mentioned, Rob, the one outing previously in Rabat 52.46 and just 500th slower today. You also mentioned the word smooth in running, which is everything about Femke Bol. Lots of other people's races in behind were falling to absolute pieces, by the way. Louise Maraval nearly fell twice. I think Lena Nielsen had a tough day there as well. Bol won it by miles. And other people, you know, we're still early season, but some of these athletes have been competing in America, in Grand Slam. So there'll be a couple of disappointed athletes, I think, in behind there who would have wanted to be a little bit more competitive than that. Credit Maraval for actually making it to the finish in the end, because she clattered a couple of hurdles very hard.
Femke Bol in a class of her own, as we were expecting. Gianni Woodruff needed to find 200ths of a second to get an automatic qualifying mark for the world champs, and she's done so with 54.54 in second place.
52.51 seconds. Not a world record. But at the FBK Games in Hengelo, it revealed more than most records do. Femke Bol ran 10 hurdles, 400 meters of bent track, in a performance so mechanically clean that the athletes behind her weren't just beaten. They were in a different category. By the end of this breakdown, you'll know exactly which phase of the race creates that gap, why smoothness is a measurable outcome rather than a feeling, and what the women chasing Bol need to change if they want to close it. Bol arrived in Hengelo with one race on the season, a 52.46 in Rabat, controlled and unhurried. Her main rival, Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, had already posted a 52.07 world lead at the Grand Slam in Miami. 39 hundredths framed everything about how Bol needed to run. Not recklessly fast, but without waste. The field wasn't soft. Gianna Woodruff of Panama, an Olympic finalist, was on the start list. Emma Zapletalova of Slovakia, European under-23 champion. Elena Kella of Germany, 4 wins across the early season. And Lena Nielsen, a relay world bronze medalist. Bol drew lane 5. The Hengelo crowd, a packed bank holiday stadium, had come specifically for her. Here's what most viewers miss watching a 400-meter hurdles race. Bol didn't win in the back straight. She won it in the planning session 2 days before. The decisive variable in 400-meter hurdles is stride pattern. How many strides an athlete takes between barriers and whether that count stays consistent across all 10. Elite women typically aim for 13 to 15 strides between hurdles, targeting 3 strides into each barrier. Bol runs 13 strides between hurdles 1 through 6, then extends to 15 over the final 4 as fatigue accumulates. Most athletes manage that transition. What separates Bol is the clearance angle she holds through that shift. While competitors begin to crowd the hurdle, shortening the penultimate stride, dropping the lead knee early, Bol holds a clearance path averaging 11 to 12 degrees above horizontal. That keeps her center of mass moving forward rather than upward. Vertical displacement costs time. Each unnecessary centimeter of rise and fall across 10 hurdles compounds into fractions that show up plainly on the results sheet. Watch her at hurdle 6, where the race opens up. Woodruff was in lane 2, 2 meters inside and half a stride ahead on the stagger. Most observers thought the race was close, but Bol's ground contact time on the hurdle approaches was running around 0.11 seconds per step, roughly what a 400-meter flat specialist sustains, not a typical hurdler. Her stride length through the back straight was holding at approximately 2.45 meters, with cadence around 4.6 steps per second. She was covering ground faster between hurdles than her competitors without spending the explosive energy that would hurt her on the final turn. Worth sitting with. If Woodruff and Zapletalova are accomplished, experienced finalists, why did the gap look that large that early? The answer is obstacle-shaped. Bol's rhythm isn't just talent. It's the product of a training architecture built around hurdle spacing rather than raw speed. This is what modern 400-meter hurdles actually punishes. Interruption, not lack of acceleration. Every stumbled approach, every hurdle that clips a trailing leg, Every tiny mid-stride adjustment breaks the elastic energy chain the Achilles and hip flexors are storing between contacts. Bol's 13-stride approach to each of the first 6 barriers means she arrives at every hurdle without shortening the penultimate step. She never has to brake. That braking cost, multiplied across 10 hurdles, is where the other athletes lose seconds they can't recover. Coming off the final bend, Bol's back 200 meters split was approximately 24.8 seconds. Woodruff's equivalent ran around 26.3, a gap of 1.5 seconds, nearly all of it between hurdles 6 and 10, where fatigue-driven stride disruption is highest. Zapletalova crossed in 54.71, a seasonal best, but 2.2 seconds back. Kella ran 54.91. The spread between second and fifth was 0.4, tight enough that technique variances were doing the separating, not fitness. Woodruff's second place in 54.54 deserves proper credit. Her final hurdle approach was the cleanest in the field behind Bol. She accepted a 15-stride pattern from hurdle 7 rather than fighting to maintain 13, which would have caused form collapse. That decision, subtle, invisible to most viewers, is why she separated from Zapletalova in the closing 30 meters. Pattern selection under fatigue is a tactical skill, not just a physical one. The strange truth about this event is that you can't simply train harder and close the gap on Bol. What needs to change is your hurdle model, not your fitness. The session that matters isn't the track interval, it's the approach stride drill, the one where athletes rehearse arriving at the barrier in full stride rather than a chopped step. That millimeter-level work is what produces second-level separations on race day. Bol's 52.51 was a meeting record, improving her own mark from 3 years prior at the same venue. McLaughlin-Levrone's world lead of 52.07 still stands. A 5600th gap remains. But races like Hengelo aren't about closing that gap in one afternoon. They're about proving the mechanics are sound, the rhythm holds under pressure, and the body is ready when the season reaches its peak. On all 3, Bol answered clearly. Watch any 400-meter hurdles race from here through the global championships and notice 2 things: where the stride pattern breaks, and whether the athlete arrives at each barrier with a full step or a chopped one. Those 2 details will tell you more about the result than anything the commentator says. The breakdown of McLaughlin-Levrone's world record stride pattern is next on this channel. And the comparison to what you saw here will reframe both performances. If this kind of breakdown changes how you watch the sport, subscribe. Like the video so it reaches people who are still just watching times, not mechanics. And leave a comment. Do you think any current athlete has the technical profile to genuinely challenge Bol before Tokyo? We read everyone.